Hello everyone, this is Lynn Christensen with Emerald Falls Quilts, and in this video I'm going to show you how I put my collage on a canvas. This is a fun way to finish off your collage pieces so that you have beautiful works of art that you can hang on your walls. So Birdie the Bison can be done as a bound project, like you quilt it and you bind it like you typically would with a quilt, but you can also make it just a little bit larger and put it on a canvas. This canvas is 16 by 20, and I purchased this canvas at Michael's. So it's always good to just go to Michael's whenever there is a sale on canvases and buy a few if this becomes something that you want to make a bunch of. So my canvas is 16 by 20. You can see it's just an artist canvas that's ready for an artist to paint on, but instead we're going to add our collage to it. And my bison has been steamed and pressed and quilted. And because it's going to be on a canvas, I did not put a backing on it because the backing is going to be hidden by this canvas piece. So that you don't need to do a backing if you're going to mount your collage. You can use a thin batting. That is what this is. It's an 80-20, I think, Quilter's Dream batting. Or you can even just use flannel if you don't want to have a lot of thickness, because if this is too thick, it's a little hard to get onto the canvas. So my project is actually 19 by 23. It's 3 inches bigger on both sides from the canvas, and that gives me 1.5 inches on each side so that I'm able to wrap the pieces. Now, what I will do is I am going to kind of place this where I think it will go. And then I have just some painter's tape here. And I'm going to use the painter's tape to just kind of pull and hold these in place, just so I can see if it's going to work. Now the painter's tape is not going to do a great job at holding this, so I'm going to move quickly. I just need it to hold long enough to make sure I have centered my bison where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and it looks like his head is coming right to that edge there, and his tail is coming right to that edge there. I did a pretty good job with placing all of my appliques. It looks like I shouldn't have put that one way at the top. You can see how it pretty much disappears, but it's fine. All right. So now the next step is to staple. So I will leave some of the tape on there just to make sure it doesn't shift on me. But I start in the center. So I have the staple gun. This was a gift for my family when I was starting collage, and I was using a really old staple gun that I was not very good with. And I am just going to put that here, and I have to hold it with one hand and staple. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple on this side. Not too many staples yet. And I'm not going to worry about getting too close to these corners yet. I'm just going to staple basically in the centers of each project. Now I'm going to do the top and bottom first. And then I will do the sides. And I'm just kind of gently pulling and wrapping it. Okay, so now I'm going to show how I do the corners. So usually with a canvas, they kind of wrap like this and tuck and wrap like that. But because of the bulk, that will leave you like this hanging over the edge. So I prefer to kind of tuck this corner up and then push this so that it is kind of like a little present and wrapped and flush there. And then I'll do the same thing with this other corner. So I'm pushing and wrapping here. And that's a lot of layers to go through, so I'm gonna make sure I push really hard. And then once I've done that, I can then staple down these parts a little closer to that corner. Okay, so again, I pull that corner in, and then I just pull this. I let it tuck a little bit in there. So there's my little tuck. And then again with this one. This side's being a little crankier. So it's wanting to like push that up. I'm just gonna let that happen because it's more important that this corner is nice and smooth. And I'm actually gonna put this kind of at an angle. And then I can do these. Okay. And the corners are why you don't want too thick of a batting. Because if your batting is too thick, now that staple didn't go all the way in, but I'll show you what I do at the end to help deal with that. Sometimes I just don't push hard enough to get the staples to go all the way in. But anyway, the corners are why you don't want your batting to be too thick. Now this one I messed up and I stapled that corner down before I pushed these closed, which isn't a great idea. For one, it puts a staple there kind of in the way. And for two, it doesn't allow the fabric to bend the way it needs to give me a nice clean edge. But we're gonna do this. All right, so I've done my 4 corners, and then I just go around, and anywhere where it's kind of puckering like this, I will staple that down because I don't want it to catch on anything when it's hanging on the wall. So I've gone around and I've stapled everything. My corners are down. Here is how it looks from the front. Isn't that beautiful? And what I want to do next is, some of my staples didn't go all the way in and they're not completely flush, and I don't want them to scratch my walls. So I just take a little hammer and I just hammer them down into the canvas just a little bit more. And once I've done that, then my canvas is ready to go. All right, so I have hammered all of my staples down. When I run my hands along, none of them stick out and catch, but here he is. Birdie the Bison is now ready to hang on my wall. So that is how you mount your collage to a canvas. I hope you found this video helpful, and go make something beautiful.